Hey everyone, this is Josh. A couple quick things before we get started. First, I want to announce that I have updated Patreon rewards. You should probably check those out. It's now easier to get into the Patreon server. And there's also YouTube membership, so please check that out. And without further ado, let's get started.
Some people just want to watch the world burn. These are some of the most amazing people. A multi-talented people, and in many ways the luckiest people in the world. Bending the element of fire at their fingertips and using its unstoppable power to ignite any obstacle in their path and strike their enemies down in a righteous inferno!
I'm pretty sure in a previous life I was a waterbender.
So today we're paying tribute to these beautiful beasts of burning by counting down my personal picks for the characters that harness the power of fire one way or another, either temporarily thanks to some random power-up, or throughout the whole game. In Infamous 2, you meet some new conduits, the superpowered subhumans of the series with superhuman genes. Gotta love that X-Men logic. Here they come in the form of Quo and Nyx, two sides of the same karma coin that control ice and fire, respectively. True to her element, Nyx is brash, hot-headed, but determined, with a blazing hot temper and combustive personality. While her methods are questionable at best, it's understandable how she got there given her backstory. She was the sole survivor of a huge blast to her city and spent a good chunk of her life on her own. But what really puts Nyx on the list is how she affects the gameplay. If you choose to side with her, you get the ability to use all kinds of fire powers yourself through napalm manipulation. What does that mean? Flammable substances like oil and napalm are yours to control. Add to it explosive grenades, flaming fireballs, you can even fly with freaking fiery wings! With all those special abilities, it's no wonder anyone would want to join the dark side.
Unfortunately, in order to get all these fire powers, you have to play the evil path, and I don't swing that way. Although...
It's me, Mario!
When you think video games and fire at the same time, Mario is probably the first thing that comes into your head. He is the most famous video game character in the world, after all. As a pyrokinetic, Mario is actually pretty basic. His fire capabilities are usually just put some small fireballs in his hands when he eats a fire flower, because in Mario, random orange flowers give you magical powers.
I don't see anything wrong with that.
That doesn't mean he doesn't have any other uses with them. In the Mario and Luigi games, he gains the Firebrand, which allows him to summon larger fireballs, light enemies on fire, or do special combo attacks with Luigi. None of this, of course, matches the sheer ferocity of his final smash, Mario Finale. Using the Smash Ball, you can summon a giant wave of fire to launch enemies out of the arena, though it is easy to jump over. Despite his fame, he is lower on the list because while he is technically a pyrokinetic, his abilities mostly come from using other items, and when he does use fire, they're pretty small compared to other people on the list. However, this is a fire user list, and he is a fire user. And it is Mario after all.
You don't disrespect the Mario. The Mario disrespects you.
All hail PYRRHON, the god of the sun! Or so he would have you believe. Yeah, Apollo might want to have a word with him about that, but in any case, PYRRHON is sure fiery enough to be a sun god with the ego to match. Pit first runs into PYRRHON after encountering the space invaders known as the Aurum, where the sun deity seems rather well informed on them and serves as an exposition but of the sun! Quoting divine prophecy like a football fan quoting stats, but with all the boisterousness of Mark Hamill's Joker, a comparison that comes back to haunt us.
I go.
As soon as it seems like the Aurum are defeated, PYRRHON swoops in and tries to take control of the Aurum forces. To what end? Power? Recognition? To feed his overinflated ego? No one is quite sure, and soon after, the Aurum assimilate PYRRHON Borg style. Pit then has to fight the fiery deity as he is slowly consumed by the Aurum he sought to control. When the battle ends, PYRRHON proves he has the power of a sun god by becoming a glorified afterburner for the Aurum mothership, sending himself and his beloved Aurum back into the cosmos. So technically, now he's not just blowing hot wind up his own skirt when he calls himself a god.
Plus, you gotta give props to anyone who says this unironically.
What? I can't hear you over all this awesome!
This guy is my spirit animal.
Video game bosses are no stranger to tough dudes who can sling fire. In fact, it's almost a staple of video games in general that there needs to be at least one fire-based person in the gallery of enemies you'll face. Just like sewer levels or ice worlds or water worlds. What isn't common is that this family of fire-themed bosses are all cute, fluffy goat parents.
Fire-wielding goats? What's next? Fire rabbits? That'd be absurd. Video games are weird.
In Undertale, the first boss you fight is Toriel, aka Goat Mom, who has a couple of attack patterns involving fire rain and fire trail attacks. Her ex-husband, King Asgore, has these attacks as well, but way more powerful. Asgore also has attacks of fire flooding the entire combat area, and a tricky circular fire ability that gives you just a margin of error to escape from it. Where Toriel was the tutorial to boss fights in Undertale, Asgore X is the first bookend for the neutral run, testing you on all the dodging skills you've learned up until then and throwing in a heap and helping of fire all around to spice it up. The fire motif also extends to their personalities. Both Toriel and Asgore, when they're not in a fight, are actually quite warm and gentle. Both exude a soothing comfort with their personalities, and they both have very soft-spoken voice types. Asgore himself also shows more of this fiery personality when angry. Although we don't see it for ourselves, we are told through other characters that in a fit of rage for the death of both of his sons, he declared war on all humankind, filled with righteous, burning anger at the injustice that had been done to his family. Toriel, on the other hand, tends to show more of the comfort and protecting feelings of fire. That is, assuming you don't ever try to leave her house. Then she literally throws fire at you. What the heck, Goat Mom?
You can check out anytime you like, but you can never leave. It burns, burns, burns in a ring of fire.
Now, if you're a fire-type Pokemon trainer, you'd probably say the best fire type out there was Charizard, or Blaziken, or maybe even Fennekin.
Well, I say screw that noise! Give me my cutie patootie victory Pokemon any day of the week! Yeah, I said it!
In addition to being unholy amounts of adorable, it combines two of my all-time favorite Pokemon types, Psychic and Fire. Also, the fact that it's a legendary proves that it came to play. And if that weren't enough, it's got two of the deadliest signature moves, Searing Shot, which basically turns the battlefield into a parking lot, and V-Create, still, to this day, the most powerful fire attack of all time. Probably what makes Victini so interesting is its mythos. According to legend, it is guaranteed to bring its trainer victory. Well, what do you expect? It's the victory Pokemon. But for real, what it brings to the table really backs up those claims. Along with being a heavy hitter, Victini's special ability, Victory Star, increases the party's accuracy. So one way or another, you're gonna end up cutting your opponent down to size. And to top it all, it managed to be the focus of 2 anime movies where all it had to do was be adorable and kick ass. It even managed to briefly turn a wimp like Ash into a leaping athlete.
And come on, after all the disappointments he's given us, give me one good reason I shouldn't rag on Ash. Well played, Sun and Moon. Well played.
It burns, burns, burns in a ring of fire.
Far off in the Iron Spike Mountains, a mage couple seeking to tame the borderlands set up their home in this unforgiving land. They were soon to have a child, and while she waited, the mother sewed for her soon-to-be daughter a stuffed bear based on the lore of local spirits. Soon they were gifted with a beautiful daughter, Annie, and she almost immediately began to hold the stuffed animal close. Tragedy struck not too long after the mother disappeared and the father remarried years later. When the daughter of the stepmother is killed due to the unforgiving nature of the Badlands, the stepmother blames Annie. In her grief, Annie's true powers blaze forth and her stuffed animal turns into a monstrous beast of fire and spirit. This is the origin of the demon child known as Annie.
Well, that was dark.
Annie in League of Legends plays a lot like a glass cannon mage. She has high damaging attacks, a damage over time debuff, and a bit of stunning capability with her passive. Her use in most higher tiers has fallen off, mainly due to lack of mobility or escape. And compared to other characters, Annie's damage isn't as powerful as it used to be. This is, of course, the fate of any game that just keeps adding more characters. Annie is still a child and acts like one in-game. Most of her lines sound like schoolyard taunts or things your kid sister might say, if they were surrounded by demonic hellfire. That's what makes her such a good pyromancer. Her attacks, her shields, and even her giant devil bear summon all revolve around flames. If this girl was any more on fire, she'd be an NBA Jam. If I had to summarize Annie, it would be if you took Elmira from Tiny Toons and combined her with Carrie from Stephen King.
I'll take you home and lock you in a nice little cage and never ever let you out except to pet you and love you and hug you and squeeze you all up.
Alright, what's the story with this guy? A fire-wielding blood elf voiced by Quentin
Burn, baby!
Flynn.
You had my curiosity, Mr. Sunstrider. Now you have my attention.
Okay, there's way more to him than that. KAEL'THAS is actually a very powerful mage who possesses extraordinary fire magic, including the Verdant Spheres. Basically, 3 little orbs of green fire, which is always awesome. These little beauties can draw from demonic power to give KAEL'THAS a little extra flair with his pyromancy. Once it calls out his most devastating move, the Pyroblast, it's gonna be a hot one in the Old Kingdom tonight. What's really interesting about KAEL'THAS is that he originally wasn't even a villain. All he really wanted was to help his people overcome their magic addiction. Unfortunately, a few misguided alliances kinda put him in a bad spot. Turns out that high treason doesn't make you very popular in the kingdom, who knew?
I'm a victim of circumstance.
All he really wanted was to do the right thing for his people. His over-the-top catchphrase, Salama Ashalonore, translates to justice for our people. But in the end, all the bad hands he's been given allowed him to be consumed by flames of bitterness and isolation. If he can't protect his kind, he'll take great pleasure in watching everything in his path burn with a righteous flame.
I love these metaphors, can't you tell? Alright, cat fans and the rest of the internet, but I repeat myself, it's time for your segment! Please leave all catnip at home.
The Sonic games are known for having pretty annoying characters with equally annoying gameplay. But luckily for us, there's an exception to every rule. Blaze the cat has a pretty troubling backstory when it comes to her flames. As a kid, she obtained her flame ability and had trouble controlling it, causing other kids her age to make fun of her for it. Due to this, she became really reserved and doesn't rely on others to help her whenever she's in trouble. As a pyrokinetic, her fiery abilities are very powerful. She can conjure flames around her and even engulf her whole body to damage enemies. While she had trouble controlling them as a kid, now she can create small enough infernos to thaw items or heat areas without doing damage to them. And she's not just limited to her own flames. She can manipulate foreign flames if they're close enough and can use her blazes to teleport as well. Her flames are tied directly to her soul, so much so that the soul itself is lit.
You set my soul on fire.
It's amusingly ironic that someone like Blaze acts more like an ice queen despite her being a flame princess. Thanks to Sonic and Cream though, her heart thawed a bit to allow herself to embrace friendship and help from others. You can say that this warming of the heart allowed her flames to burn even brighter. Despite all this, she's only number 3 just due to me liking the next 2 more. It doesn't matter though, no matter what happens, she won't give up the fight. Luckily, I don't think she'd mind. She is a cool cat after all.
Aren't these puns just the cat's meow?
Laugh, 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 laugh.
Laugh, laugh, laugh!
Team Fortress 2.
Yeah, I've said countless times how much I love this franchise, and with how big the game is, I couldn't not put the Pyro on this list. Armed with his, her, who knows, trusty flamethrower, they storm onto the battlefield to set anyone in their path ablaze. Probably what makes the Pyro so compelling a character is that we know so little about this little weirdo. We don't know their name, we don't know what they look like outside of the jumpsuit and mask, we're not even sure of their sex or if they're even human. The only thing we really know about the Pyro is every other class is afraid of them. And can you blame them? The Pyro is legitimately insane. They go on the bloodiest killing spree ever witnessed, and all they can see is a sickeningly sweet hallucination.
That is objectively more terrifying.
It was time for Thomas to leave. He had seen everything.
Aside from being a flame-happy mental case, Pyro has a few nifty tricks up their rubber sleeves. He can deflect missiles with an air blast, and she's the ultimate tool for spy checking. Any cloak spy that gets caught in the literal crossfire is immediately hickory smoked. And if you're feeling particularly sadistic and want to spawn camp and give your enemies a nasty surprise, they're the dwarf for the job. Now, fans had complained that the Pyro can be a little OP and broken, and it's fair to see why, especially after the Jungle Inferno update where they get all kinds of toys, including the frickin' jetpack. But that shouldn't stop you from having fun with the class in your own way, as long as you don't use the volcano fragment. That thing is redundant and barely does any damage compared to the regular fire axe. Krieg from Borderlands 2. He goes beyond just setting his enemies on fire and joins in on the fun. Stan Aileron, Tales of Destiny. He can shoot homing fireballs from midair. How's that not awesome? Heatman from Mega Man 2. Careful, this oversized washing machine is packing over 12,000 degrees Celsius. Yukiko from Persona 4. When was the last time the healer could also burn people to death? Ignitus, Legend of Spyro, a dragon that's a master of fire with a red-hot attitude and how to use spell overkill. Zan from Dragon Fable, tragic figure who became an insane fire sorcerer. Gosh, how do I still remember this? Liu Kang and Scorpion, more of martial artists than pyromaniacs, but they have fiery elements to them. Ken from Street Fighter, not technically a pyro, but has a lot of fire attacks. Agni from Smite, 2 heads are better than 1, especially when raining down fire from above! Ragnaros and Alex Straza, she rules over dragons, he rules over fire itself. Put them both together, and still only barely behind KAEL'THAS.
Burn to the ground! Burn to the ground! Burn to the ground!
Go!
Well, cross the free space off your bingo boards, everybody!
Ever since Organization 13 was introduced into Kingdom Hearts, they've been some of the most consistently popular characters, and among them, Axel has consistently stood out the most. From the moment you meet him, Axel is cocky, cool, yet surprisingly laid back. The game leads you to believe that he and the others are planning on betraying the organization. Then it turns out he was actually a triple agent, ordered to keep tabs on the little rebellion. Kingdom Hearts 2 was where Axel really came into his own, however. Here, his role is expanded with more character development. He's humanized through his relationship with Roxas, his only friend in the organization. This causes him to eventually turn against them. In the end, he's happy to sacrifice himself so that Sora can take down the ones who hurt his friend.
Until he got revived, because no one stays dead.
Dang old continuity!
As a boss, Axel plays an interesting role in both games where you face him. He appears very early on to test your abilities and then much later on near the end. It brings your journey full circle in a weird way. Seriously, it's a big wake-up call to see his fire field go from a mild annoyance to being able to rapidly deplete your HP. The best part about him is that in spite of the story issues with the modern games, Lee, is still great. Seeing him reunite with Roxas is a big emotional highlight of Kingdom Hearts 3.
I'm the Fiery Joker, and if you'll excuse me, I got a date at the Cheesecake Factory.
Continuity!
Cut!